Hello everyone, it is Matt from Vector Gaming. I'm also joined with Andy.
Hello.
On my right. And we have just come outside EGX Rezzed, and the BAFTA Awards are just about to start, which is why there are lots of smart people wearing tuxedos.
If you can make them out behind us.
Yes, but there's a blinding light that we're hopefully covering up. But we thought we'd just come out here just to talk about some of the games we played, what we enjoyed, some of the, because this is mostly like indie game showcase pretty much is what EGX Rezzed is all about, so just things to keep your eye out on really. So I think to start off really we should talk about what we thought of the venue overall, because this was hosted at Tobacco Dock, which it hasn't been done before.
So obviously Earls Court is shutting down, so they've moved EGX Rezzed down to the Tobacco Dock from Birmingham actually as well, and then EGX is going up to Birmingham. What do you think of the venue? Like,
it was in one word. The first time I walked in, it was surreal. It was weird because it got some footage to show you of kind of generally what it's like inside. But there's like it's outside and there's all separate rooms, but it was a little bizarre first.
It's like there's outside.
Yeah, well, there's outside middle bit, and then on each side you have like glass rooms, and you walk in and everything's separated. Not like if you've gone to EGX London before, it's not all under like one big like warehouse type thing. It's like separate rooms in these glass things.
So it's like pretty much every single developer or a couple of them had their own little room. So to go from like Team 17 to the Xbox one, which was right opposite it, you had to sort of come out of their little glass box and go into the next one.
So you'd come outside and then go through, and then things would be on different sides, and then it was confusing because there was there's a downstairs, which is kind of more for the left field collection, which is the indie games, I guess you want to call them, like the indie,
yeah.
Like the real indie games where it's like one person working on it really, or just like creative ideas or things which like you played a game which was called Her Story, which is more like a video based detective or like you're watching these interviews of a woman being.
I have to say, I did start looking at it and I was like, this could potentially take quite a while. So basically, the premise of it is you're a detective in some sort of police crime, and you've got a load of recorded sort of video archive footage, and then you're going through them trying to figure out what's happened, and there's about 61 different videos in it that are just short little videos, but you can type in anything into the search column. Like it starts off with murder, and there's a few videos of this woman who's talking about a murder, and it just gives you the first 5 out of the lot of the searches. And then you go through that and you can pick up different information. Like I was like, she talks about this person called Simon in one of the videos. So it's like, okay, let's have a look for him. Type in Simon.
So scouring through, trying to find more information.
Yeah. So I was speaking to the developer briefly, and he was saying the idea behind it was they're trying to make you think that you're this detective that's been up all night in the case, and you've sort of got your cigarettes and you're smoking away, and obviously don't do that, guys. Yeah. And you're just trying to crack the case. It seemed like quite an interesting game, very different to anything I'd played before.
Yeah, I'd say the left field collection in general. I mean, also we played like a board game. Well, not a board game, it was more like you had dice game. And Andy like whipped my ass in this game because I was half of it I was trying to figure out how to play this game. Essentially, there's loads of different dice. There's 10-sided dice. Is it 6-sided dice, 10-sided and 12-sided?
Yeah,
and you had 3 dice which were like your objectives and your like government secrets, I think was what one of the creators was explaining it to be.
Meant to be government secrets like hacking.
Yeah, and you have to protect them, and your other dice are your units, and you have to kind of be a little bit, it's a little bit like in some aspects similar to like chess or checkers, where you have to kind of make moves, and when they make contact you can kind of take their piece or you do damage.
That's it, yeah, like the different like dice types, like a 6-sided dice was one that could like do these massive powerful blows, so it could go up to another unit and just like take some of its health down, so like knock down their health. And there was another one which it could use its health to move like further than one space a turn, and there was another one that helped buff up all the different dice. It's actually quite an interesting game, I thought.
I guess an appropriate question to ask is, out of what we played, what was the most fun game that you played? Like, what did you enjoy the most and have a laugh with, and just really enjoy playing the most out of all the games we tried out. We tried about, I'd say, 10 or so games.
Yeah, I think the most I really like that board game, I have to say, which obviously isn't a computer game, but I quite enjoyed a game called Crystal Rift, which is actually like a bit of a dungeon game. They've designed it around the Oculus Rift. So you've got your Oculus Rift on. They said that they are going to make it available for 2D as well, so just on the traditional screen. However, I don't think it's going to be as immersive.
Yeah, I mean, it was like it hit what I call the VR sweet spot, which is horror, which is where it kind of really excels the VR.
So you're basically walking around this sort of dungeon area, and you're trying to solve some puzzles, but it's got some like really subtly done jump scares as well, which has definitely got you jumping a couple of times.
That's an understatement.
I mean, the really interesting thing was it gets you right at the start with the jump scare, and then it doesn't do anything for quite a while. And then just when you sort of calm down, it's like, all right, let's chuck another one in.
The great thing about it was, and I was sort of talking to, because me and Annie were taking turns, while one of us was playing, the other was sort of talking to the developers and sort of asking them questions, finding more out about it. And the one thing, as Annie said, the jump scares, first off the bat, I saw them, I was like, it doesn't look like to be too scary, but when you put on the headphones and you put on, this is the second time you putting on the Oculus Rift, just any VR headset, I just kind of get immersed in the world.
Yeah.
And I was sort of, you could hear voices, and it was like, I see you, and I was like, oh. And then you're walking down like a dark tunnel, and then it's like, oh, something's going to happen here. And I knew I was going to expect something, but it just flies in front of you, and because it's VR, it's completely different than if it's just on the screen. I wouldn't have been scared if it was 2D, I don't think.
No.
But I was like, Jesus Christ, and jumped, and then everyone laughed at me because there's been a scaredy cat. But then even though you were expecting them, at one point you looked up and it came down.
Oh, there's some stuff hiding it. I definitely shouldn't have looked up.
Yeah, I never looked up. But yeah, like I was saying, we spoke to the developers, and the one thing I said that was great is that there's this good combination of, like I said, it's timing out the jump scares. It's not every 30 seconds, because then it doesn't become scary. But because you have a jump scare, then you've got all these puzzles, and you're so concentrated on not messing up the puzzles and not getting killed and getting to the end of the level, you completely forget that there's these jump scares there. Your brain, you just get caught off guard, and then as soon as they remind you 5 minutes later, and it happens, you're like, I completely forgot that they had that in the game. And just every time I went down a dark tunnel, I was just whimpering like a child inside. I was like, I don't want to go through here.
And I think the interesting part there is that they said that you can make your own levels as well, and you can actually make them while wearing the Oculus Rift as well, which was actually quite interesting.
Yeah, you look around at a map and
they're just sort of showing us how easy it was just to create the levels just by having little blocks and just saying, oh, I want this trap here, and there's going to be a button that's triggering off this trap, and it's something to potentially look out for, especially if you're looking at Oculus Rift games, I think.
Can I just say, what is it with these planes flying over us? It is ridiculous.
We kind of are in London near.
We are in London, so excuse that. But I'd say for me, the game I had most fun with was probably that game Friendship Club.
Friendship Club.
Yeah. That was basically, it's a game where I think the backstory was you're I don't know how old the child was. A child's dream, doesn't have any friends in real life, so he has this dream and he comes up with these imaginary friends that are all sort of, I guess, playing together and stuff. But what happens is basically it's like a arena shoot 'em up type thing where 4 friends are pitted together and all the levels are procedurally generated, so they're meant to be all different. But the crazy thing about it's insane, is you can change up the speed, what you could do super slow-mo Matrix, or you could be really fast and insane, and you can change the mode to be like everyone has 1 bullet, and then you have to fire, and then to get more ammo you have to go back to the centre where everything's kind of bounce, and the bullets don't stop. They just constantly bounce. The bullets
just ricochet. There was actually I can't remember what the mode was called, but basically when you fire a bullet, when you capture another one, if you fire that again, then it becomes a bigger bullet. And then if you capture it again, it becomes an even bigger one.
Yeah.
And that was really cool. And there's also the aspect of like if someone's doing really badly, they can become the hand of God, where they basically this massive finger and they're just squashing the other players.
Yeah, and the great thing about it was like we were playing with 2 other guys we didn't know, and then we were playing a little bit with like the developers as well. I was on a roll to start with, and then Andy came out of nowhere, just like, unsung hero. Just he was winning, and he was just completely obliterating everyone.
1 point
and then
away
it was 1 point away, and then the developers go, "Hey guys, you should all team up on him." So all 3 of us started teaming up on him, and then when that happened, I started catching up, and I was at 1 point, I caught up and I won the game. Because of we worked together. We all had the enemy of your enemy. The enemy of your enemy is my friend. I don't know if I got that right, but anyway, you were the enemy. So yeah, that was probably my fun game. But what was because it's indie, there's a lot of crazy ideas, a lot of different ideas. What would you say was the most interesting game, or the one that you thought was the most interesting concept maybe, or something that you thought was very unique and creative that stood out to you?
I mean, I was looking, before we came, I was looking at a game called Blues and Bullets. Which looks like it's a noir-based game. It's pretty much all in black and white. There's little splashes of red in the game. It looks like it's going to be a bit of an episodic game as well, where you're a detective and you're sort of trying to figure out what's a murder case. I had a quick go on that, and I mean there's some of the scenes which I mentioned to the developer that the shooting scenes in it were a bit boring, I have to say. Like it reminded me of an old sort of arcade shooter, because it sort of plants you in one area and then you're sort of aiming at the guys and they're sort of just peeking out from behind cover, and then you're trying to shoot it, and then you can't actually move at all, and once you've killed all the people in the section, it moves on to the next one. So I don't know if that's going to be interesting at all. That was something I sort of went in just going, I'm quite interested about this.
I think for me, looking at the list of games, that game that I was just making loads of if you're an Arsenal fan, you would be happy to hear that. So basically, Magnetic, cage closed.
Magnetic.
We had a long talk with the developer. We played the game. Probably that's the game we played the most. And it was before we came here, I was making a lot of jokes about it being Portal 3 or Portal rip-off, and even a guy behind me when I was playing said, "Well, could you mind me asking what's different about this that Portal hasn't already done?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure," and he kind of explained. And the most interesting thing about it, I think, was when we got to the end of like the test chamber. And it said, "Okay, you've got to remember what you did in that level. How many cubes
How many cubes did you use?
How many cubes did you use? Like companion cubes?" And
it doesn't say companion cubes.
Yeah, it doesn't say that. I don't know what they're called. But it was like, you had 4 different choices and you could mess up. But fortunately, that didn't happen.
And they were saying it looks like you're saying. It looks very much like Portal. You've got a gun and you're going around all of these sort of test chambers, trying to solve puzzles. And there's a lot of cubes and a lot of buttons in it. It's obviously taken its inspiration from Portal. But it's like a magnet gun, so you're pulling and pushing this sort of magnetic cubes and these magnetic plates, and bits of the scenery can come out and you can use that to climb on.
So there was no portals involved. It was just the whole test chambers and going through each level, which was the only similarity really. There was different things like magnets that you could boost to jump, and you could change the sort of power of the jump,
which we didn't realise because we missed the tutorial because we jumped in when someone left. But you can change the power of the magnet gun. So in some of the things you can shoot yourself up in the air really high to try and get into different ledges. It's actually quite interesting. Like the story seemed interesting as well. So you're like a prisoner on death row, and they're like, well, you can either die or you can test out this new magnet gun that we've got and potentially save yourself.
But there is it's a purely single player, and also there's no level editor because they got so far along on just working on the rest of the game. They got so far in development. They said there might be. There was a was a big might there. It kind of was a yes and a no when I asked him about it. And so I think he was a bit unsure. You know, they want to include it, but it depends if they've got the time and the resources, really.
Yeah.
Other than that, another plane. Other than that, any other honourable mentions? I've got a few, so I'll list mine
Go on,
first.
you go.
Okay. I shall go. Talking loudly. So Eden Star was one we played. It's a survival game. It's like sci-fi. There's no zombies. It's not another Daisy, a H1Z1. They did say that, you know, if you've played games like Rust and Daisy, you'll be familiar with the type of game. But there were some interesting things they were talking about, because like the very aggressive enemy types, these aliens that come in hives and swarms, and you have to, when they get multiplayer, work together, and pretty much there's PvE and PvP.
Well, there will be.
Oh, there will be PvP.
Saying
that's the
the
plan.
build at the moment doesn't have it, but
obviously we mentioned Crystal Rift, Friendship Club we mentioned.
We also played Not a Hero by Devolver Digital.
Yeah.
And what did you think? Because that was one of the ones you're like, I really want to go and play that game when we go to Rezzed.
I mean, I'm a big fan of Roll 7 games, and I'm not just saying that because I've tested Oli Oli 2, but I saw like a really early build of it.
Yeah.
And that was back in November. So it was back in November, and it was like, I don't know, pre-alpha or something, and it looked like it had a lot of potential. I didn't really see much, just sort of like a simple level design, but look at it from here, from EGX Rezzed. I really liked the Bunny Lord. I thought it was quite funny. Like every time you would go to a mission, he'd say, and after the end of all, we'll eat a breakfast, and then in between levels, it would have like funny dialogue in a cafe of like saying.
I really liked the humour of the actual game.
Yeah, and so basically the rundown is he's trying to be elected president, pretty much.
Yeah.
And you know, so like the stuff like his billboards get taken down, so you got to go help and put them back up. But in the process, you got to take people out and shoot them, and you can.
It was like there's a kid factory, so in order to stop it, we need to go to the kid factory because they're manufacturing bombs in there. So we need to go and blow up the bombs with our even bigger bombs.
Yeah, and stuff like that. And it was just really funny dialogue. The only thing I had the criticism I have to make is that I found it very fiddly. You tapped A to cover and holded it to slide, and I found it really fiddly to slide and cover and all that, and that was something that I kind of messed up on and got killed a few times because of.
Okay, I have to say I didn't actually get killed in it myself, but I did find the cover system was a bit awkward at times. I managed to get stuck in cover a few times, and so like in order to get out of it, I had to sort of tap A to slide out of the cover, and I don't know if that was just the way I was playing it, but I found some of the characters quite interesting as well. Like, it's the only game I think I played where there's a Welsh character. Yeah,
I mean, and all the different characters had different guns. They had, you didn't just pick up a gun. Like, it was Cletus, he had a shotgun.
There was Jesus
in there. Oh, I think even Brian Henderson. We got mentioned. He was after Molyneux's not really doing anything with him. They took it upon themselves to include Brian Henderson, who was meant to be a god in goddess. Even asking them directly about it, Tom, who's the director at Roll 7, he said, yeah, it's a bit risky, but we're glad we did it, and people seem to like it. And I think, from what I saw, like, I didn't see it here obviously, but I saw just gameplay. It's just basically, this is Brian, he is a god, and he's just going around the levels just shooting a beam out of himself because he is that amazing. Is a god. It was just had a lot of character, and that's what I like about games and appreciate. It's just having that sense of differentiating yourself, having a bit of character that makes you unique. Is there anything else that you?
I think they're pretty much all of the games that I've got something to say about that we played.
Well, this has been our sort of overview, pretty much, and discussion of EGX Rezzed. If you were here and you didn't see us, then sorry about that. but we will be going to EGX in Birmingham in September. So if you're going there, let us know, because we'd like to see your friendly faces. And yeah, that's pretty much all we have to say.
And also, hopefully, in September, Steve should be joining us again.
Yes, because Steve wasn't here.
Because Steve obviously...
Imaginary Steve, you are. We'll Photoshop you in somehow.
And again, he's not left us. He just can't make it.
Yeah. But that is all. And so we will see you guys in the next video. Until then, goodbye.
Goodbye.